Wow, some of the things people find in their yards is pretty unbelievable, and if you follow us down this rabbit hole, you'll see what we're talking about. These folks were lucky enough to find things in their backyards that sometimes made them rich, other times that things made them scared, and sometimes these innocent, unsuspecting people were left entirely creeped out. Follow along. This is Strangest Things Found in People's Yards. Number 12. Lots and lots of cash. Wayne Sabaj, an unemployed man, came up with a pretty lucky discovery when he was picking broccoli out in the garden in his backyard when he stumbled upon a nylon bag. Now, it obviously wasn't the bag that intrigued Wayne, nor was the bag itself worth anything. It was what was inside the bag that blew his mind. $150,000 in cash was stashed away in the bag on his property. Wayne was set to get the money if no one claimed it by the time 2012 ran out. His neighbor, Dolores Johnson, ended up saying it was hers and that she threw it out because it was cursed. The court ended up ruling that Johnson's daughter would get some of it and then Wayne for a reward. However, Wayne ended up moving on past this life 10 days before he received his share. Harsh. Number 11. Ferrari. Can you imagine being a kid and going out in your yard to dig around a bit in the dirt and then your shovel hits something hard? You dig a little more and find, no, not a toy Ferrari, but a big one, a real one, a Dyno 246 GTS Ferrari. Now, the initial story went that it was buried as part of an insurance scam, and Farmers Insurance Group did actually pay $22,500 to the Dyno's owner for the loss of the car. The real story supposedly goes something like this. A plumber bought the car for his wife. Wife barely drove it, man and wife went to dinner but avoided giving it valet because of the looks the valet guys gave the car and parked it on the street instead. And when the couple got back, the car was long gone. Makes sense. The only thing that doesn't is that nobody remembers seeing or hearing anything weird around the time an entire car was buried in a front yard. How does that add up? Sucks to lose the car, but we're sure the $22,500 helped to dry the ex-owner's tears. Number 10. Attack. So this man, who we'll just call the Bosnian Steve from Blue's Clues, thinks that his house is under attack by aliens. But why does he make that claim, you may ask? Well, his home has been hit 6 separate times by meteors, all the hits spanning back to 2007 and after. He has no clue what he did to anger the aliens that target his house for these meteor attacks, but he's about done with it. Pick on someone your own size, aliens. Number 9. Bone in the shed. A man named John Lambert, hailing from Ipswich in the UK, discovered a massive bone in his backyard, and thinking it could be a significant and incredible archaeological find, he stashed it away in the shed, where it didn't see the light of day for the next 16 years. Then, in 2013, after coming across the large bone out in the shed again, Lambert did the only thing a reasonable person would do and took it to Ipswich Museum, where they could examine it. Experts did, and what they found sort of blew them away. The bone was a 250 million year old plesiosaur bone. However, the plesiosaur wasn't known to be native to the English Sea, so everyone was confused, including John Lambert, who probably had no idea what to think. Number 8. A whale. Once upon a time, Gary Johnson, a California homeowner, spotted a giant rock in proximity to his backyard that had bone patterns in it. He called an expert who came and took a look at the rock and determined that the rock held no value, so he let it go. This was 1978, so we don't know if the expert we don't know, actually. Fast forward to February of 2014, when Johnson watched the news and saw a story about how a piece of sperm whale that dated back 12 million years was found only a few hundred yards from where he found the original rock. He called a different expert, one from the Natural History Museum, and the paleontologist that showed up told him an entirely different story than the first expert did. Apparently, the fossil inside the rock dated back 14 to 16 million years and was found to be the remains of a baleen whale, which is extremely rare. Sucks to be the first expert he hired. Number 7. Shelter. Not a homeless shelter, not a pet shelter, a bomb shelter was knowingly on a family's backyard for the 11 years they lived there, without them opening it, and we honestly think that's kind of weird. Who buys a house knowing it comes with a bomb shelter but doesn't even crack the shelter doors or see what's right beneath your own backyard for 11 years? Apparently, the Zwick family from Neenah, Wisconsin does, as that's what happened when they bought their house in 1999 and finally opened the shelter for the first time in 2010. They found a whole bunch of supplies, including clothes, food, water, flashlights, and more. But it was all floating in sealed Army surplus boxes on 5 feet of water that had seeped into the shelter over the years. They cleared the water, opened the boxes, and eventually decided to donate the survival supplies from inside the shelter. Come on, people. 11 years. Number 6. Real golden nugget. A man in Northern California pulled up a significant chunk of gold from his backyard back in 2014, and that chunk of gold went on to do him some good. The man who found it chose to remain anonymous and just collect the money so as not to start another gold rush that would bring the action right to his front door. The nugget of gold went to auction and sold for $460,000, and geologists say that the likelihood of there being more gold on the guy's land is pretty up there. So if he's as lucky as he seems, he may just be finding more gold nuggets in his yard soon. This guy is basically a money tree, and it's not fair. Has anybody encountered this guy's house yet? Number 5. Lois Lane. What would you do if you found Superman's love interest hiding out in your backyard? Probably go ask her what she's doing and then call the appropriate people, right? Well, that's the same decision that somebody was faced with back in 1996 when the then 47-year-old Margot Kidder had a minor episode and disappeared for 3 days. She was spotted in a backyard in Glendale, California, and seemed very paranoid and frightened at the time. However, foul play was ruled out. She had last been seen at LAX 3 days prior, waiting for a plane, but when they found her, she had soiled her clothes, she was covered in scratches from trying to hide in bushes, she had cut off parts of her hair to alter her appearance, and she seemed to be sporting missing teeth. Honestly, if it was us, we'd probably just lock the door and call the cops, which is what we're sure the homeowners had to have done. Kidder sadly joined a big, blown-out office party in heaven on May 13th, 2018, where she's now sipping on jungle juice with her co-star Christopher Reeve. Number 4. Weed. Yep, you heard that correctly. In Los Angeles, a man named Mac Reed was attempting to install some solar panels out in his backyard when he found a bunch of marijuana hidden under a hot tub on his property. Now, Mac was a former LA Times reporter, so he, after considering selling off the drugs for money, called the LAPD so that they could take care of it. Not only did the operator ask him to drive the weed to the station, she almost didn't even send anyone to the house to collect it because there were no officers available. Finally, she got a supervisor to go out and take a look, and the officer advised Mac to figure something out to let the owner of the drugs know the LAPD had taken it. Mr. Reed then printed out a poster that read, "We found it," and called LAPD. They confiscated it, and now we are watching the place. Sorry. We're sure sorry wasn't good enough for whoever owed money to their guy for those plants. RIP. Number 3. Dead mammoth. Okay, so technically this farmer and his sons did stumble upon a real dead mammoth, but the mammoth had been gone for 12,000 years and it was no more than bones. In fact, the first encounter they had with said mammoth was when the farmer, aptly named John, and his sons were walking by a creek bed on their property in 2010. Came across what looked like a bowling ball to one of the boys in the water. It turned out that what they saw was only just the tip of the iceberg, or bone, rather, and when excavated, the bone measured 4 feet long. John drove the bone to the University of Iowa for study and called a lot of attention to his home. Researchers flocked and turned his family's property into a full-fledged archaeological site and found most of the rest of the missing mammoth, as well as more bones since then. What a place to call home. Number 2. Boom. In 2018, a woman was preparing her house for a big ol' estate sale when she came across some items that were a little more than unsavory in nature. The woman found a bunch of hand grenades in her basement, and after probably panicking for a few minutes, she did the smart thing and called the police. The sheriff's office in Santa Clara took the call and sent in a squad to detonate the devices outside of the woman's home after clearing the area and then evacuating 10 houses. The woman had luckily been uninjured as she had moved and handled the grenades before realizing what she was dealing with, and the specialized squad disposed of the pretty life-hazardous explosives without incident. The owner of the home and the representative for the estate sale have no idea how the grenades got into the basement in the first place. Number 1. Yeah, no, I'm going back inside. You know that feeling when you walk around a corner and there's another person right there and you jump and your heart races and, well, you get scared, right? Now imagine if you were a 9-year-old boy and you were wheeling your bike around your yard and you suddenly spotted a cheetah. What would you do? Well, Julie Ann Taylor of Cambridgeshire had a son who had to deal with just that. The boy, Toby, spotted the cheetah when he was only about 15 feet from it, dropped his bike like screw that, and turned and burned his little butt up inside the house. At first, his mom didn't even believe him, and she thought that he was playing a prank. Julianne then looked out the kitchen window and saw the animal tearing his bike apart, so she called the authorities. It turns out the cheetah had escaped from an animal sanctuary in the area and decided that the Taylor's house was the perfect place to chill and probably find a snack. Can you even fathom finding some of these things in your backyard? A golden nugget, a sports car, Lois Lane? If this video tickled you, like it up, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and train your eye to watch out for new videos put forth by us every day.